Hello, my beautiful guys and dolls, and welcome to an episode of Before the Curtain. I'm your host, Abby Campbell, and we will be diving into the world of live entertainment. We will uncover what it takes to put on a show, and artists will reveal their stories of how their creations went from idea to reality. We are determined to uncover everything that happens before the curtain. Originally from Miami, this artist was born with groove in his heart and has since moved his way into the heart of the entertainment industry. After launching his professional dance career, he became an assistant choreographer to the Emmy-nominated Glenn Douglas Packard. Performing in television, music videos, and a world tour, this artist now resides in Las Vegas. Being a go-to choreographer, instructor, and educator for a multitude of production companies and the entertainment community as well. He is currently a dancer at Park MGM's On the Record, as well as a movement artist and board member of DMD, Danny Maloney Dance. You can find him creating a vibe in his classes and choreography from different styles of music like reggaeton, Latino pop, alternative, and rock, and including dance styles, contemporary, jazz funk, and hip-hop, aiming to instill the healing power of dance through all of his students, peers, and those alike. His authentic expression through textures, intentions, and character development in storytelling makes him one of the most inspiring artists I've ever met, worked with, and worked for. And that's why he is here today. Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, please help me welcome to the mic the free-flowing, the expressive, the jaw-dropping David Mayorga.
Wow. That introduction was so incredible. Wow, you elevated that bio. Yeah, that was so nice. Thank you.
Well, you guys are amazing.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you and tell the audience how amazing you are.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
So, have you always wanted to be a creator?
I don't think so. I mean, when I was younger, I was a very expressive child, and I come from a very fun family. We would throw parties almost every other weekend, and we had a DJ in the family, and so I think dancing was instilled at a very young age. But being a creator, I think I've just always enjoyed music. Yeah. So I don't know if I've always known that, but I know that I felt it. Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you feel it.
Yeah.
Anybody who's seen you can say that you feel it for sure. I'm gonna do a lot of jumping around too, because again, we can't stay just one topic at a time.
Yeah.
I do have a very specific question though, because I read your website, your beautiful website, and it on that about page it talked about how moving to LA you developed this character name called correct me if I'm wrong on my pronunciation. Is it Toffee Nut?
Toffee Nut.
Toffee
yes.
Nut.
Yeah. Oh my God.
With research, okay?
Yes.
I had to do the research.
Yes.
What inspired you to create that kind of character?
Man. Okay. Oh, I love this question. Thank you for bringing that up, because I lived in LA for about 3 to 4 years back when I was in my early 20s, and the hustle was definitely very, very real, as any starving artist would experience in a brand new city. But I remember going to a multitude of auditions, and movement or dance wasn't like always the primary focus. It was looks, and it was your height, your weight, all these different things that unfortunately I think I never really had a mental control over. I think I was struggling so much that I never had a mind for business. I was definitely very I loved to dance, and I never really took care of myself in that way. So that's just kind of to set up the fact that I felt like I needed to express myself in a different way, to stand out, or to play differently, just to be or find sort of like an outlet for my frustrations, because it was a very it was a very hard time. And two, I just wanted to explore something else other than dance. And this character, even though he's got a face of a clown, I had no experience working as a clown whatsoever. But I remember listening to specific music, one in particular, which is Money, 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 Alan Cummings' version. And I had this like vision of a character that was just so kind of overly sexualized and naughty, and I don't know, it felt like my shadow self. So I created this character to just like release all of that frustration, all that, everything that was kind of hard about living in LA. And yeah, that character paints a pretty interesting moment in my life. Yeah. And I've tried to perform as Toffee Nut after. It doesn't feel quite the same. But every now and then, I think, depending on the project, I've brought him out and try to like tap into that mentality again. It's a pretty like dark and fun and super sexually charged and obnoxious character for sure. Yeah.
And you performed in different cabaret shows with that or venues?
Yeah, mostly in West Hollywood. So I would perform at different cabarets and variety shows. Tony's Cabaret was the first one I started out in. He used to host these like dance contests at Mickey's in West Hollywood. And he ended up opening up his cabaret show. And so I'd perform there. And then I met another promoter. His name is Leo Madrid back in the day. And he opened up his own cabaret called The Peekaboo Show. And I was more of a specialty, but he had live singers and dancers that would also dance in it. And that was a fairly regular once a month I would do that. Yeah.
Were you ever nervous to do that, considering it was a new outlet for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was very, very nervous, but I am very, I don't know how or when this started, but there was a process in like kind of creating, which would start at home, and I would play music and I would just kind of improvise, which was fairly new to me when I lived in LA, improvising back then, but as a character, very intentional. And I would film myself. And I started getting comfortable doing it on my own. And the weirdest thing that I would do before each performance was I'd get in the bathroom and I'd like pick a stall, usually the largest stall, and I would get into this like zone. I would like I would I would like play with my hands. I'd get into character essentially in the stall and like kind of get into this like heavy grotesque animation, and then I would play out in the audience, and I would black out. I would just kind of like let the music absolutely take over me. And that was one of the best feelings that I've ever had in my life. Just kind of like stepping into a different pair of shoes. Yeah.
It's amazing that you found such, this might be the wrong word, but such a place of solace and a place of liberation in what sounds like such a hard emotional time. How is it that you stumbled upon that? Did somebody show you like a way to do it and you're like, yeah, I'll do that? Or were you like, just woke up one day and were like, I have this great idea?
There's someone that I've looked up to for a really, really long time. And I befriended her when I was about 17, 18 years old. Her name is Teresa Tuggy Parcello. And I remember the first time I saw her perform. I met her through a mutual friend when I was that age, about to start college. And I saw her one woman show called Z minus, and something about that performance, I think it was about a 30 to 45-minute solo act, and it was dance, visual arts, and she was trained in so many disciplines of dance that she will pull away, or she will pull from, and create this whole story about her insomnia. And that was the first time that I got to see dance in such a very intentional way. And the storytelling of that was very so captivating. So fast forward, when I lived in LA, she ended up moving to LA, I don't think very far after me. And we were roommates for some time, and just being around her, she's always been and still is a very creative person in so many different mediums. It's almost like she's constantly looking at the world through a different pair of lenses. And because of her, I was introduced to so many different things, even at a young age, just radical thinking, and I loved that. So being around her, I think I ended up finding the courage to just like be playful, to not care about what others thought, like to sit in my own energy for a while and just let your imagination run. Because she would spend long hours just like in the quiet doing different acts of creativity around our space, and I found that to be so inspiring. Yeah, just it's a different state of mind to constantly look at everything in such a creative way and be playful. And I kind of miss that, actually. I don't think I have that anymore, but when I do, it's there. It's not accessible all the time, or not that it's not accessible. I don't have that practice as much as I used to. Yeah.
I love hearing that, and it's so interesting to hear that, because I don't know if this correlates for you, but hearing that reminds me of times in your class or times working with you on a gig, or even being in an audition room that you were running and hearing the uninhibited dancer, working with an uninhibited dancer, of that, like, there is a sense of playfulness to it. And it's so cool being able, I feel very special hearing that's what sounds like that kind of mindset shift on where that kind of started. And
Yeah.
it's cool to see that, how long that's kind
Yeah.
of lasted.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely had a huge influence in being an uninhibited person to also play like that, right? And it's everlasting. Like I'm constantly thinking about how can I play in this moment, and using spaces. I mean, we're already in an industry that's so creative, right? But in Vegas, we're also overtaken by corporate spaces or corporate opportunities. But even in those spaces, I want to be able to still be as playful as possible. I don't want to follow like the same sort of like protocol or mindset. I wanna shift that a bit more, and allow dancers and other creatives to still be uninhibited in those spaces. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So do you think creating that character of Toffee Nut has given you even more confidence in being sure of who you are as a creator, to bring that character work into your other projects or current projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that definitely taught me the power of intention, and how, when as dancers, we're so physical, and we train our physical bodies, but the mental state of a dancer, I think, is equally as important, and when we get to enjoy the dance, the audience can feel that, right? And so the that character has helped me just be way more intentional and way more detailed in the process of creativity, that no detail can really go unnoticed if you like really feel that, right? Yeah.
True. Because everything is in the details,
Mm-hmm.
especially from, like, this is a random example, but like even in films and movies and shows, right? Continuity. If one item is moved,
Mm-hmm.
even in the next scene,
Yeah.
people will be like, wait, she wasn't wearing that, or cut details are everything.
Yeah.
And it can change the vibe of the set and vibe of the sequence or vibe of the move, right?
Yeah.
I just find it amazing your strong character in everything you do, at least from especially the work that I've done with you.
Yeah.
Even in, I mean, why am I just saying that? Even in classes, there's always that intention. Was there a time you felt like you were doing things without intention, like dance-wise or like teaching-wise?
I mean, yeah, I think there was at some point in my life where that shifted, of course, but even now, when something isn't intentional, that's still intentional. I'm like, okay, I have no prompt, no focus. I just want to play, So in my current state, no, but I'm sure, there must have been that switch. I mean, I don't want to say this about every young person, but I know that my younger self was not always the most intentional person, I and I still have that in me, but there's something about being a dancer young that needs validation. And so I think sometimes the intention can be like a second thought or in the back seat, right? Because all what you're craving is force to be seen, right? So I think that that's interesting. And now I absolutely still have that. I still enjoy validation, but I don't I don't it's not like the driver anymore. The driver for me is knowing that anything that I'm doing it because I love it, because I care about it, and because I want to feel good in it. I don't want to do something that later on I'll look at and be like, oh, I really didn't want to do that. That doesn't feel good anymore. So
has that been a recent shift?
It's been a stronger shift lately, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I've learned to slow down a lot, and that has its pros and cons, but I've learned to slow down and be way more intentional about the work that I want to do and how I want to show up, and just enjoy my life a little bit more than constantly seeking for approval and validation. Yeah.
So jumping a little topic here, have you always wanted to be like an assistant choreographer or like choreographer of events or in the professional setting?
Absolutely not.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I don't think I ever even I never saw myself as a choreographer. When I first started dancing, I'm gonna backtrack for a second. Oh, I love this expression.
My jaw's on the floor.
Yeah. I actually so and I'm gonna be pretty real right now. Dancing and moving was always like my favorite and primary focus. Being the person that was like on stage or on film. I wanted to do that so strongly, and it was because the release was so strong for me. And I had developed a stuttering problem when I was younger due to childhood sexual abuse. And so because of that, it was hard for me to speak after that smoothly, and I would stutter. So dancing became such a therapeutic thing for me, and I felt so strong about it, and I loved that I was seen, as a dancer. And then when I graduated high school, I ended up meeting Glenn Douglas Packard, who he was this Emmy-nominated choreographer, and he took me under his wing, and he would use me as his assistant choreographer for whatever reason, because I don't think he saw much of my work. I think I was teaching for his dance company for a bit before I ever assisted him in choreography, and he must have enjoyed my work so much that he hired me to assist him. And I wasn't passionate about that. I remember it would take me so long to choreograph an 8 count. And now, I mean, this isn't like by any means me tooting my horn, but I see movement so easily now, like I hear music and it's just like it happens so naturally now. But he ended up giving me so much work in my early stages of my career to assist him with choreography, and I learned that I was good at it, not because I was passionate. It was just there. And now, I mean, it's been so long, but I've only just started choreographing in Vegas, or identifying as a choreographer really, in Vegas in the last few years. And I've been here for about 10, 11 years. And it's been about 3 years since I've started choreographing, or since I started choreographing for events. And I love it, but it's only one aspect of the industry that I enjoy. As you know, that I teach so many different styles. I dream about all the different spaces that I get to be creative in, and this is just one of them. So yeah, choreography is just kind of fallen, just fallen into me. Yeah, if that makes sense.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
And it's so interesting that you're like, yeah, no, I never wanted to do that. And
yeah.
I love that you just were basically pulled into it, kind of
Yeah,
not necessarily forced to do it, but it was the universe was like, hey, you're going to do this now.
yeah,
And you're like, okay, here we go. And it's, again, my jaw's on the floor because, yeah, it does. Choreography just flows out of you. It really does. And I'm going to say that forever. And it does come so easily to you. How did you make that shift? Because I know you said when you first started out, it was hard to choreograph an 8 count, and now it's...
Yeah, I think that comes with security, honestly. Like, meaning that my background is, in the beginning, I did start dancing jazz and modern. That was like kind of like my foundation, other than like dance parties with my family, which was very like Hispanic, Latino dancing, right? But I have been exposed to different styles, and I've done different techniques, not necessarily have mastered those techniques, but because I see movement in such a broad spectrum, I think I just allow myself, or I trust myself to just let the movement come to me versus trying to force it. Because when I was younger, again, when I was younger, seeking for validation, choreographing for an 8 count meant to me I need to make up the coolest moves, right? And it's like I want it to be hard and I want it to be interesting. And honestly, now I just want it to feel good. Even the combinations that might feel the most challenging isn't because it's not impossible, but it's because you have to commit to it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think, yeah, that shift happened because I trusted myself that I have enough in my toolkit to just kind of explore movement, not that movement, but movement, right?
Was there a specific maybe job or even class that you were like made that kind of shift or opened your eyes or mind to that, like, yeah, I can trust myself?
Yeah, actually, some jobs, I mean, I think in the very, very beginning, more so, I was accustomed to choreographing every single step, and I was like, I had practiced so much prep work in the past that I felt like I always had to show up like that for every job. But as of late, I've kind of enjoyed the process of being in rooms with the dancers, creating with them. So the trust has shown up even more in those spaces because I'm coming in with enough information to create, but I don't necessarily know what the steps will be. So if I'm answering your question correctly, I think that shift has happened in the last like year or so, where I'm just like, I want to play more instead of like come with this like blueprint of what I want everyone to do all the time. I love looking at a room full of dancers and bodies and being like, sometimes the simplest movements can be so efficient to like the audience and satisfying to watch. So I like seeing the movement on dancers in real time, and I trust that, it's inspiring to be in that room, and I have to play, and I have people that are waiting for me to like create something that no longer scares me. That's like exciting to me. I get to like, this is a playground, what can we do with our bodies right now? So yeah, I think that's happened in the last year. Yeah.
I'm going to get a little logistical with this question.
Okay.
Because that approach is a little more free flowing and kind of like, I have the blueprint of the house, right? But we're going to build it on site.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
That analogy will work. And I know sometimes maybe working with clients or working with companies, has there ever been a company or time that you did that and they weren't trusting of that? Or I don't know if that question makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. Yeah. I so lucky enough that I don't necessarily interact with the end clients. So I have either a middle person or a director working with me, which is one of my favorite things. I love being part of a team. So I think sometimes I wouldn't say that I wouldn't be prepared. I would just show up and be like, I'm just gonna do my thing, right? And just, have enough like, what's the word? Confidence that what I'm doing in real time is gonna work. And 9 times out of 10, it does. So.
Ooh, wait, now I want to hear about that one time.
Well, I don't think necessarily people would know. I think it'd be more of like a preference of mine, where I'm like, I don't know if I really like that, but I'm going to keep it just because it's like satisfactory right now. And which, the integrity might not be there, but I think in corporate spaces, there's sometimes a little bit of a compromise that, like timing, and we only have a set amount of time, and I just have to commit to whatever I've done in real time. So yeah.
And you make it work.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And that's awesome because so far I don't know any, but it's so easy to be in that kind of situation and be like, well, we're not doing it, we're forcing and pushing the situation rather than just being like, all right, we made the decision, we're going, and it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being that kind of malleable person in leadership, because right, you kind of have people looking at you from both ends is also a great quality to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Being malleable, I think, is important. I think not just as a creative, but as a person. I think, if we're getting deep like that, I think a lot less suffering happens, right? When you're able to flow a little bit and not needing to control everything. So I think that's, at one point I've learned that I do, things that I still dream about is being part of teams, whether they're in like contemporary spaces or commercial spaces. I love not being the only voice of creativity in the room. There are times even with dancers that I've worked with them where, I don't necessarily have the answers, but I look for the dancer to kind of like help me bring something to life, and that means that I get to kind of submit and be malleable, that I don't have to control the entire piece, I can trust that the dancer can bring it to life or understand a concept, and I don't have to choreograph that step or that phrase, that they understand whatever improv they'll do. We both are like, we trust it, right? So yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have, would you be able to share like a specific example of that?
There's quite a bit. Yeah. Like there was one job that I did, and it was for NetApp, and I used Chase in a solo moment, and I didn't feel the need to choreograph it. And I just said, hey, this section's for you if you want it. And at that time, I remember him going through some challenges with his eye, and it was, I think that might have been the first time I worked with him. And I just asked him, how do you feel about using this moment to release some frustration? I want to blindfold you in this moment, and I just want you to like move. And he said yes. And he knew what my intention was. It wasn't to like, for lack of a better word, disable him, but like give him this space to like, I know you love to dance. I know you're a great dancer. And I know that, this can be an opportunity to like release and be like symbolic. And so I think that was a very special moment for me, at least. And I'm sure at some kind of level for him as well. Yeah. Yeah.
That was such a dope moment.
Yeah.
To know that, he had made such a journey through what he'd gone through.
Mhm.
And then to have somebody who, and even if that was his first time working for you, see that in him and see that and offer him a space to release that energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's so heartwarming. It really speaks to the integrity of who you are and also the value you place on the people you're in the room with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm even like thinking about it now. I'm grateful that he felt comfortable enough to trust that, because that could be absolutely, that is absolutely like a very vulnerable place to be in. So, yeah.
And I feel so special. I was there too.
Yeah. Yes.
I got to see it. And I was like, well, that's really dope. He's doing that. Because it was, amazing. Sorry for anybody who didn't see it and have no idea what we're talking about. But it was a really amazing moment. It was a really amazing piece. Rewinding a little bit. Earlier you mentioned dance being one of the creative avenues that you like to express and create in, or like coming from the artistic umbrella, right? There's so many avenues you can explore and create in.
Yeah.
What are some of the other avenues? I
think in what I meant to say is choreographing for corporate events is one avenue. Yeah. There's other branches of dance that I'm still so interested in, and for whatever reason, I know myself enough to know that where I'm at right now in my life, I'm not this like, I'm not in a place to hustle, right? Which, has its pros and cons. So I haven't necessarily like chased those dreams, and a part of me feels guilty about that. But I'm such a feeler that I feel that I feel that I'll trust myself eventually to really, 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 really aim for that and strive for that. And those spaces would mean, like I come from a very modern background, and contemporary dance company is something that I wholeheartedly enjoy watching. And, in Vegas, that's kind of at the bottom of the dance world, right? And fortunately, I'm surrounded by people that feel the same way, but are also doing the work to want to change that, right? So yeah, I want to tap into that a lot more, honestly, choreographing in those spaces, working with those types of dancers, using those types of tools, because dance theater, like that kind of movement and quality of expression, where you get to play with lighting, you get to play with visuals, backdrops, you get to break the fourth wall. There's so much that you can do with contemporary dance that I feel like eventually Vegas will eat it up. So wow, that was weird. Sorry.
Will be served.
Yeah, will be served.
Contemporary
Yeah,
will be served.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an avenue that I that's my background, and I have a huge space in my heart for. And it's only because, not only, but dance to me, and I've said this before, is more than just a lifestyle. Like it was my therapy as a child because of stuff that happened, right? And now I am so adamant about communicating well, about being a voice, not just for myself, but for other people when possible. And I I have dance to thank for that, right? Dance has definitely helped me with all of it. I feel like my story, if anything, has a lot to do with the childhood trauma and dance together, and why I am the way that I am. So I think I'm pivoting. Am I pivoting? Yeah.
But shout out childhood
Yeah.
trauma. I mean,
Yeah.
makes us who we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm going to get a little sentimental for a moment, because hearing you talk already, your background, the values that you hold, it's so amazing to see it tied throughout your life so far, and tied into not only how you are with yourself, but also how you show up when you teach and when you choreograph and when you're working in a professional space and when you're with people either one-on-one or, again, in your own class. You always have that healing intention and therapeutic intention and creating a space for people to feel uninhibited. And I could get this very wrong because I am not you, but I think because you hold that so strong, you attract those people, and people just feel like they can explore that when they're around you, which to me is incredible, because that's such a sacred space. And now I'm going to start crying.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot where I said this, but it I said it and just came out. Oh, I was talking to a really good friend of mine. We were just hanging out at home, and I told him that, not just in dance, but in 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 everyday life, I think it is important to me to show up a certain kind of way, because there's already so much harm in the world, right? And to be a safe space for anyone that's near and dear, I think is important to me. Yeah, wow. That statement is so, it rings to the root of who I am, I think, Yeah. Yeah, that's important to me.
I love that. We need people in the world like you.
Yeah.
For sure. You probably heal and help a lot more people than you have any idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that feels good to hear. And it's interesting because, we all live in our own bubble in our minds, and we're constantly, questioning ourselves, and I mean, not everyone, but meaning anyone that practices awareness, I think, tries to do that, right? And I have my challenges for sure on when I can be a better person. Yeah. Yeah. But thank you. That means a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from you. And actually, I'm going to share a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because I would probably say the past six months to a year. I don't know. I'm really bad at time. But learning to get into that more free flowing space and seeing that in real time, being in a room with you was like, so it's possible. Just because
okay.
how easy, at least again, it
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
from my glasses,
Yeah.
it seemed so easy for you and so just natural. And it was like, so it's a thing. People can just not go through life, but like be in that kind of flow and be in that kind of, I feel this and this is the movement, you know?
Yeah.
And that, cause I don't choreograph, for companies or anything, but I teach dance and teach kids and stuff. And I was usually always I need to have these 8 counts ready before I go in. But now some of the stuff that I come up with is like, I have the idea, we're just going to see what happens. And it's worked out well. And I definitely can say that I found that validation through definitely watching you, for sure.
I mean, it's still it's funny because it's a flow state, but there are a couple things that are behind that. There's like inner work that has to happen, right? For one to have trust, and also I think you'll understand this. I still calculate before I go into those spaces. I still calculate what my risks are, and I figure out, like, is it doable, or is it, in that time frame with the dancers that I have, is the concept too much or too abstract, or, there are moments where I don't really know in real time. But the other factor, or the other thing about that, is slowing down to ensure that every choice you're making feels good in my gut. Like, I try not to move so fast. In general, I try to move at a pace where I think about things, and I'm like, does this feel good, or does this give me anxiety, or stress me out? And if it gives me any of those two latter feelings, then I don't move forward. But if I'm like, okay, that feels good, I move with it. So I think it takes being very present, and I'm glad that you've experimented and you're getting good results. It's almost like, this is what I tell my partner. I'm someone that when you come into my space at home, everything has a home. I'm not a very messy person. I'm particular about where things are, because I want to be able to flow better. So when I'm cooking, I know exactly where the spices are, and which spices are in which shelf, right? And I can flow and I can feel, but that's because I've set up my blueprint, bring it back, my blueprint for it to work that way, right? So I still do the inner work before I get into those spaces to think about, what's important, and movement is obviously important, but the confidence beforehand, the big pictures. When I choreograph pieces, I do start with big pictures to know. Remember that piece that we did for A-Lot at Area 15, and we had to carry Joey Jam up above our heads. I started with that because logistically I knew that would take the longest, and then movement afterwards, right? So yeah, there's a lot of, like, even in the flow state, I still do a lot of, like, prep work mentally on, like, what's important.
Oh, for sure. I didn't
Yeah.
mean like super, super random. Like,
Yeah.
there's always
yeah,
that blueprint.
yeah.
We have the construction company. We know what time we need to be
Yes,
there.
yeah,
We know what side of the house we're going to start with first, and we're going to get it built.
Yeah.
Now, I had no idea what color the wall is going to be, like coming to that kind of like decoration and creation type.
I love these analogies.
I love analogies. It's easier to like conceptualize.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Something else actually that I love to practice is when I choreograph, I love to understand how I want it to feel. Do I want it to feel chaotic? Do I want it to feel absolutely controlled? Do I want it to feel fun? Do I want it to feel heavy? Like I start with a feeling first when it comes to movement in sections, and that's kind of for me, I enjoy that part because I start moving in that way. I'm like, okay, let me get into that feeling, let me be confused. What? Sorry.
No, but and it's funny because that's what, whenever I worked with an acting coach, that's what he talked about, finding the verbs to, your lines, and that either verb or specific I'm confused it gives you exactly what you need to do. And now there's no question. There's no question about how the movement's going to come out or how that section's going to come out or, because it's so open, but it's also so specific at the same time.
Yeah. It gives you a prompt. It gives you like, it's just a nice little direction and where to go and just like stay on that. Yeah.
So finding this process of creation so far for you is like that kind of what we've already talked about, right? The blueprint, having things ready. Have you been able to take that recipe and use it in any other areas of life?
Ooh, that's a good question. The blueprint of
whether it be
knowing
like
how it feels, and I would say actually no. I don't think I have done that. I think when it comes to like anything that's non-creative, I'm typically on the receiving end, meaning that I'll show up in spaces, whether that's the grocery store or I don't know what other public spaces or a concert, but I don't necessarily plan so much. Even at the grocery store, I'm very like aisle by aisle. What I want to try something new. I'm very open as opposed to like knowing how I want it to like feel or knowing what I want to do. Even it's funny, even when I like show up to my classes, I'll show up slightly earlier, right? As one does. And I am always very curious on like the energy that's there already. So I open the door. I'm always at Millennium. They have the best welcoming committee. They're so amazing. And so I love receiving that. I like being in spaces where I don't always have to give necessarily or create or anything, but it's almost like you're downloading information. You're like open to these experiences to give you more information on like later on when you do want to create, I am a very observant person in public spaces, at people, things, how things are like laid out, so that's what I mean by I'm more on the receiving end. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Even like coming here, I was like, all right, so tell me the thing, like instead of needing to control it. Yeah. I've actually had to learn how to do that because I can be a very particular person, and that kind of creates a bit of control sometimes. And I've learned in the past, when I try to control so much and I'm attached to how things are going, then I end up being disappointed, and then there's a weird feeling in me, and I don't like that. So I'd rather not go through that and just flow. Yeah.
It's so interesting to hear that, and then knowing that everything in your house has its home, to be so like free flowing and then still be, I don't want to use the word controlling, but particular about things. But that's so cool.
Yeah. That's kind of a balance.
Yeah.
That's that left versus right brain balancing out to when to flow, when to engage or control. Yeah. I think there's space for it all, you know.
That's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I know so much more about you. It's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So I am going to get to the question that I ask every guest so far, at least. Can you share your funniest moment as a performer?
Funniest moment as a performer. So
yeah, it can be that, or even if it was time that you were the choreographer, maybe you weren't performing, but something happened and it was just
really, really funny. Huh. Oh. So I was honored enough to be in a carnival piece when I lived in LA for my friend Tuggy. She made a piece about dinosaurs. Yeah, and the moment that like the asteroid hit Earth, it was a whole like we this was and the reason why this comes up is because it was a fun performance and there were so many moments that were instilled that were funny. You know, like we were T-Rexes at one point and we were partner dancing. It was incredible, you know, and there was like, imagine T-Rexes like doing spinal rotations, you know, like, and we were committed, you know, on stage in front of, you know, what one would think are like the coolest people in the city. And we're just like being playful on stage. You know, I lived for that moment. Oh man. Yeah.
How did you partner?
Oh my God. We just made it work. Yeah.
You must have gotten really close to that.
Oh yeah. There was definitely some closeness in the piece. And some of the music in it, because she ended up making a mix, but it was like an oldie song, something that would sound like, you know, I forgot what, I just remember the sound shum 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 shum, and we would like, I don't know, it was so interesting, and I that was like one of the happiest moments. And we actually have a mutual friend. Her name is Alexia, and I met her during a commercial in LA, and we became really, really close friends. And I remember telling them about each other, and they ended up meeting each other on their own, and they became really good friends. So the three of us were like this trio for a long time, and then we kind of did our own thing after. But Alexia is also one of like my favorite partners. Like someone, you know, I'm sure as a dancer, you've had your favorite partner dancing, and so she was my partner during that, and like just the happiest time of my life, you know. Choreography by Tuggy, and such an eclectic partner section with with the best friend. Yeah, yeah, it was so good. Yeah, and we had to laugh out loud at the very end with like no noise, no music, just like laughing at the audience. It was really, really funny.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Like, yeah.
Is there a video?
Yeah.
Can I look it up on YouTube?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. That's what, like, it's like just
I'm putting it in the description box. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I won't actually.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, yeah, I'm sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was happier times. Yeah. Well, thanks for that question. I just like brought back memories. Yeah. Wait, now I want to know yours. Has anyone ever asked you?
No.
Can you tell me?
I have two that ring really. One of them actually happened to me, and another one happened to a cast member.
Okay.
Whenever we were on the ship, I was part of the ship cast. We did a number we had like 2 pairs of gloves on, and we had this pack on our back, and we would go through it and put our hands behind our back. Oh, and now our gloves are white.
Okay.
And we put our hands behind our back. Oh, look, we have a tambourine. You know, stuff like that. And the very last show, one of the singers put shaving cream in one of the dancers' gloves.
Inside of the glove?
Inside of the gloves. So listen, the show must go on for him. So he
Yeah.
put on the clothes with shaving cream and he walked on stage and we had to pass each other in line. And so I just see this man walk on with shaving cream on his face and on his costume. And it smelled so strong on stage. And this was my first contract as a professional. So it was just so funny to me that our stage manager just let it happen, and like it was that we were allowed to play jokes on each other.
This was during like the last show.
The last show, yeah.
That feels like a ritual.
Yeah, apparently
right?
It's a theme. Most casts do it.
Yeah,
but I guess one of the singers checked with the stage manager and was like, "Hey, I have this funny idea. Is it okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, it'll come out of the costume, so it's fine."
Okay.
But it was so funny because every time he put his hands behind his back, he would try to rub it off. So now his it's all over his face and his back is completely covered. And the costumes are black, by the way. So you just see this white stuff all over this man.
Wow.
Yeah, it was it was hard. It was real hard to keep a straight face for the whole number. That was funny.
And for you?
I did a Halloween show, and a few numbers we danced, and a few numbers were just gimmicks.
Okay.
And one of the gimmicks was Footloose. Okay. So we had a foot on a chain, right? Footloose. And we just got to like run around the stage and play around and everything. And when we got them, we kind of were messing around with them. We were like, okay, we got to be careful because they're kind of cheap. They might break easily. So don't swing them too much. Okay, cool. So we gone through the whole month of October in this Halloween show. Nothing happened. Nothing went wrong. The very last show, we're doing Footloose, and we're like going all out because it's the last show.
Yeah.
And I swing this foot, and this foot flies into the audience and smacks some lady in the face. And I stopped with my mouth open, and the band stopped playing.
Hurry, there's a foot on the loose. That's amazing.
Luckily, it was a very we could do a lot of character work and audience interaction.
Yeah.
So I wasn't afraid to just stop and stare because we were allowed to be actors throughout the show as well. And then after 10 seconds, the band picked up the song again. And by the end of the song, the audience had gotten the foot back up to the stage. And so I ended the dance in the middle of the stage.
With the
holding
foot.
the foot.
Oh my God, that's perfection.
Oh my God.
That couldn't have been written any better.
It was perfect, but I'll never forget seeing that foot smack the lady, and she was so mad.
Yeah.
And she was yelling at the stage, and I was like...
She was mad?
Yeah, that she got hit. But everybody around her was just losing
laughing. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so good though. That's so good. I'm sorry, lady. I'm sorry.
I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I lost my foot in Footloose in the very last show of this month on Halloween.
Yeah. Wow.
It was great. It was a memory that'll live with me forever because what are the odds?
Yeah. That's a great story. Yeah. Those are two great stories.
I feel like I have a lot of funny performing stories.
There's another one that came to mind for me too. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
You do?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I was actually part of Zombie Burlesque as... I think if I remember correctly, I was their first swing, and I was swinging all of the male tracks in the beginning, but then they kept me only for the Mikey one. Have you seen Zombie Burlesque?
I haven't.
Okay.
I hear it's amazing though.
It is. It's a very well written show. It's super creative and campy, but very, very smart. But one of the male zombie dancers, in the show you learn that he's gay, and also I guess this won't be funny for everyone if everyone locally knows the show, or most people, but he also ends up he enjoys dressing up as a female. So he'll wear like a bra and like fishnets and put on a wig and do like a whole number with like fans. I ended up playing that role. And for me, it's really funny because me with a brunette wig apparently resembled two things: Jennifer Lopez and my mom. And I have pictures. Like, I have a picture that I edited of me in that costume and my mom in that same pose. And I was like, if my mom had a daughter, you know, it was it was pretty fun. And the MC Enoch, he would he would play with his commentary about me and J Lo in the show. So that was actually a really funny moment in my life to be able to play that kind of a character on the Las Vegas Strip, which many have done, but you know, it's still funny. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because it's just so like, this is what I've trained for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It brings, I don't know, not a sense of humility to it, but just a sense of that playfulness. Like, you know what? It's really not that serious sometimes.
Yeah. No.
It can be, but
Yeah.
other times
Yeah.
it's about bringing a sense of laughter to the audience because you look like J-Lo.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in
Yeah.
a wig.
Yeah. And I would twerk that thing.
Yes, you did.
I would absolutely enjoy that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love these questions.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
my
great.
favorite,
Yeah,
one of my
yeah,
favorite parts of the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. I love that too. And yeah, bringing back memories. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for
Yeah. I do have one more question before
Okay.
we like end.
Yeah. Okay.
Out of everything you've experienced in the professional setting, in the professional industry, what would you consider the most surprising that you've learned?
Out of the dance industry in total, what
Being
do I
on
find?
jobs, choreographing a job, working through how many dancers you can hire, or I don't know, anything that you've experienced that you were like, I never thought I'd learn that.
Hold on, give me a second. Because there's quite a bit of things that are popping up right now, but I'm trying to see how I can articulate it. Or two things: communication and respect. I feel like are, if we're, I mean, that's where my mind goes, at least, you know, like the, and I'm still kind of trying to understand that, but the most often lack of communication sometimes from like what's needed all the way down, like trickling down all the way down to the dancers, isn't always the most efficient, right? That process doesn't feel very efficient. You know, it's like very sporadic, and you know, this industry has been around for a long time now, you know. So I find that, especially in like in corporate spaces, that we haven't found a way. And I guess, I mean, I don't think, maybe I don't need it. I don't know. That's okay. Sorry. I'm trying to understand that. Sorry. That thought still. Yeah. And then respect, I mean, coming from non-dancers in the industry, just like how much value we give into everything that we do, you know, and like not necessarily being seen as the athletes, the creatives that are bringing so much to the table, you know. I think that's a little surprising to me that respect isn't there. Yeah.
And you can definitely stop me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I understand how the communication and the respect kind of go hand in hand, how we're so separated from how the everyday person or how the corporations or the businessmen work and communicate, you know, and how we operate.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's like, well, why would the dancers need to know this? And it's like, this is why they need to know it.
Yeah.
You know? And
yeah. Even down to like we need to know what kind of floors we're dancing on, right? Like that should be something that should be part, like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just like an example, right? Like, why wouldn't that be part of your your offer, right? So,
And
but
it's
but it does take us to kind of like,
yeah, because they don't ask what kind of floors they're going to be seated on during the meeting,
yeah, yeah,
So it's interesting to realize that
yeah,
not everybody is educated in each other's specialties whenever they try to work together.
Yeah. So I think that's surprising.
Because I've seen a little bit of that as well.
Yeah.
Just because we live so different lives.
Yeah.
And it feels very separate. Although it's, wanted on both ends, it's still like educating everyone you're working with on what we need from each person in order to make this event or this production the best it can be, right?
Actually, there's another thing that's really surprising. And this is just from experience. You know how I said I do like being part of a team. Even in, let's say, in certain events, how like a venue's tech team isn't always willing to want to, I mean, and I don't want to like generalize that either. That might be a little bit like pointing fingers at all, but that should be part of the process too, in terms of like, hey, even if it's a 1-day event, that the tech is still important, that it shouldn't be, let's wing it, because I've come across a couple of times where I've wanted to like, hey, how much do you want to be a part of that, of this? Like, I'll ask that, and they're like, well, we'll just wing it, we'll just, there's a term for it. I forget the term, but it's when they get to, I think it's pusking, when they do it in real time, right? Which again, that's flow. Yeah, I have to.
That's a skill.
And that's a skill, and I love that. But if I want to, if we're trying to bring the best product, I want to be able to communicate, that this is happening in this corner and I don't want this to be missed, also with whoever is filming it, to know that this is happening here, which isn't center stage, like all of that. Like, I wish that the creatives were part of all of that, with the tech, with the creative director, with the producer, that was still important in corporate spaces or corporate events, right? Yeah, it feels like an afterthought. That's surprising. Yeah.
It is surprising.
Yeah.
Because again, if you just look at it point blank, oh, you just need, the stage and the dancers and the costumes and music.
Yeah.
Why would you need the lights or
lighting,
a fog machine
important.
Or something, and
lighting is so important. I mean, honestly, I wish I can go back to school and study lighting, because it's so fascinating and there's so much to that. But I will say that I'm thankful that there's a producer / director that I've worked with that is passionate about bridging those gaps together and brings in the lighting person to rehearsals so that they know what they're getting themselves into on event day. I love that. I mean, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Because again, like, I didn't even think about that until later on, probably until about a year ago. I was like, oh my God, like, you can't just be a good choreographer. You have to have so much more when it comes to communicating with tech, with even musicians, with singers, with dancers, with the stage techs, with, like, there's so much more that goes into it that is very surprising to learn.
Very.
And it's interesting to learn how to navigate it all.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I honestly didn't know how to do that. but I was honest about it. And I think there's a few instances where I could see that there was respect from certain people. Like, and someone I just learned, I was like, hey, I really don't know what this process looks like. In the very beginning, I would say this, but this is kind of the goal. I'd like to incorporate you into this, even though it's just happening tonight and it's been received well. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, just if you wanna, live tech this, or meaning like call cues in real time, just say these things, like they're teaching me as I go, being honest. And then there's other people that are not having it, right? So yeah, I've had to navigate that, learn how to navigate that, because everyone's different. Obviously, no one teaches you how to approach the tech people, right? And then there's actually something else that I've learned, that if you show up not confidently in those spaces, you would absolutely get walked all over. There are people that would like see, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing, and so would think that anything that you say really doesn't have any kind of importance. I've ran into that, and it's like, it's affected me for the rest of the event, because I'm so emotional and sensitive. So I've learned that in those spaces, sometimes I have to do the inner work to know, okay, how am I going to approach this? Like, how do I want to show up, and all of that? Yeah. So, wow, that's quite interesting experiences to navigate. Yeah, and there's so much more than just choreographing. Yeah.
There's so much more
Yeah.
that goes on.
Yeah.
Before the curtain can rise, for sure.
Yeah.
Wait, now I have follow-up questions.
I mean,
how did you navigate that kind of experience when you showed up a little bit not as confident?
Oh, I'm still working on that, because it's affected me in the past, and I'm still learning myself, and in the leadership role, and the event will end, and I'm like, I should have said this, or I didn't look at it this way, or they probably, like, we can't take the responsibility of how other people process information either, right? And so I've learned that sometimes in those spaces, it's so quick, like the pace is going so fast that I can't slow down, meaning like how I want to move, right? They're like working on so many different things. So if I don't know the exact questions or statements to say, that they think that I don't know what I'm doing, right? So as opposed to like being introduced by the client, hey, this is the choreographer, he might have some questions, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm tuned in. But I've had moments where I'm introducing myself and they're like looking at me like, who's this person, right? So yeah, I'm still learning. Yeah. But I'm honest in that, and I'm good with that. Like I show up and I'm like, hey, this is what's needed, and whether they receive it or not, that really is only up to them. So every situation or experience, I just have to feel good that I'm showing up, even if I'm insecure a little bit. That's a learning process, or a learning curve still. So
thank you for sharing your truth on that.
Yeah.
And I think that honesty in those spaces probably gives you a lot of, or serves you a lot of respect.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think so. Yeah. And I'm also in a place now that I'm really good about, if there's an experience or something negative that happens, I'm good. I don't need to like be in that space again, So I'm pretty good about like not letting it always affect me and like needing their validation or any of that. I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I don't want to work with this company again or this person again, which can limit opportunities, but I don't know. I'm still navigating that. Yeah.
Learning that information and then making decisions from there.
Yeah.
Well, this has been lovely. I love that you shared your time with us. Where people can find you on Instagram.
The quality of movement.
The quality of movement.
The quality of movement, which, if I can speak on that for a second, I have loved taking my name away from the work that I do and focusing it on on dance, on movement. So instead of calling my LC anything related to my name, I think for me it was important about the quality of movement. And for me, it's also more than just dance. I've used that to as a wink to myself, how do you want to move in the world? The quality of your of everything that you do. So I love seeing that as often as possible. Yeah.
And it's funny because I almost brought that up earlier because I see the quality of movement not only in how you move and how you choreograph or teach, but also how you move through the world and how you move within just I don't want to say within yourself because I don't know, all that much about you and your processes, but just to be an observer and to see how you move.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah. I love that you say it like that because it's true. How we move when no one's looking is also that's your character. That's your true character. So I will say that I do my best. I do my best. Yeah. So that name just is a daily reminder of all of that. Integrity.
The quality of how you move is based upon the information you've received thus far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes not everyone has, they don't have the resources or tools or practices to move the way that they need to, or that can serve them better, right? Yeah, if we're talking in a broader scale. So integrity is very much subjective, right? I think. Yeah. Most often, or a part of it at least. Yeah.
I guess it depends on what kind of glasses you're wearing, know? Right? Yeah, your own perception.
Yeah.
See, I just have more questions. Do you have any resources? Things that you do that aren't dance that keep your quality of movement at the level you want it to be, whether it be reading books, journaling, anything.
I could be better about those things. Absolutely. I think everyone can always feel that way. I think I'm aware of my resources. I don't always practice them, but I do always fall back into it. So breath work is one that in the last few years has been, I think, very prominent in the world. I'm sure it's been around for a long time, but I feel like it's been a lot more realized as of late. And even now, I'm currently doing a 30-day practice of breath work via Genevieve from Freed Artists. I don't know if you've ever met her, but she's been playing with breath work and I'm doing that. So every morning or every day I try to implement breath work on some sort of level right now. That's currently. And then yoga, yin yoga specifically, is not as intense as any sort of active yoga, but there's something about yin yoga for me that just kind of helps me slow down. And I know we're not meant to be thinking about all these or having a train of thoughts, but I allow myself sometimes to let that happen, and I fixate on things while I'm in a stretching pose because it shows clarity for me. So that's my personal experience with it. So yin yoga has absolutely helped me ground myself. And I know that you mentioned anything non-dance related, but I can't deny the fact that improv is probably the number one thing that creates so much groundingness in me and clarity and just the releasing of tension. Yeah. And I have this like beautiful space, which anyone that follows me on Instagram can see, but I have this corner chair, and I just mentioned this at Textures and Intentions. I do love to just sit in silence sometimes, and all of that, all those little nuggets, I feel just help me like tune out the world, right? And all that noise. Yeah. And find like my own version of the truth, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is so nice. Like, I honestly, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, I don't like hearing myself talk. I don't watch myself on video unless I'm dancing, right? I don't take many selfies of myself. I don't know at what point this happened, but I've like turned away from like looking at myself in that way, and this is the second time that I've had the opportunity to just sit down and talk with someone about dance and life, and I've absolutely enjoyed it. And I do this. I'm so good about one-on-ones. Like, I'm better with my closest friends. Like, I I love having them over and just talking one-on-one. I'm better at that than bigger crowds. So this has like reinforced that I do enjoy talk. I love communicating, conversating about different ideas. So I'm so grateful that you've asked me to do this, and that people get to see me in this way other than just dance. So yeah, this means a lot to me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've created such an amazing approach to what you do that can be seen, at least I've seen it done so many different ways, and so many different, I don't know, options of control and anxiety, and like letting the high stress of what we do take over, and that being the driver of what they do, and being around somebody like yourself who just has just come up with their own approach and unique experience, and I don't know, space to it is so inspiring. And like I wanted to know how you did it. Like, I wanted to know more about it.
Yeah.
Because it's an honor to be in that space.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
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 And ending side note, make sure you go take David's class at Millennium. And
yes.
Sometimes
Prodigy
as well.
I'll do pop-ups. Yeah. Yeah. I want to do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, please come.
And yeah, that's it. I don't know what I was going to add to that.
Thank you. Thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you,
Can
David.
I give you a hug?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Before the Curtain. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever it is you listen to the podcast. We love to hear your virtual round of applause. If you know of a production or artist that deserves to have their story told, send us an email or message us on Instagram by clicking the link in the description.